Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines tonight, police continue to investigate disorder at a Hull KR match over the weekend. Hull's first purpose-built closed road circuit is given the go-ahead, and a statue unveiling one of Hull's most famous daughters, Amy Johnson. And later in the programme, I'll be talking to Karen Griffiths about sponsoring a room in a hospice, and before that to Jen Vincent and Anne Newlove. They'll be telling me about their 100 pledges. But first, some news. Officers are appealing for witnesses following a fatal collision in Hull on Saturday morning. The incident happened on Freetown Way when a silver Vauxhall Astra collided with a cyclist close to the junction with George Street at around 6:40 a.m. The cyclist, a 42-year-old Hull man, died a short time later at Hull Royal Infirmary. The 29-year-old driver of the Vauxhall has been arrested in connection with the incident and remains in police custody. Anyone who can help police with inquiries is asked to call Humberside Police on 101. Investigations have been continuing today to identify those involved in disorder following the Hull KR versus Salford match on Saturday. A 27-year-old Salford man and a 16-year-old Hull boy were arrested on suspicion of a fray following the pitch invasion. A 36-year-old Beverley man was arrested on suspicion of assault in connection with a further incident in Lunsborough Street. All three have been bailed to a date later this month. A spokesperson for Humberside Police says they're working with both football clubs and Greater Manchester Police to deal with those responsible. Officers are appealing for the owner of a silver car to come forward to help with inquiries after an 18-year-old male cyclist was involved in a collision with that vehicle. The incident happened just before 7 p.m. on Thursday when the cyclist was travelling westbound along the A1077 Ferriby Road between the A15 interchange at Barton-on-Humber and South Ferriby. The cyclist came off his bike, breaking both his arm and leg and causing extensive bruising and grazing. The silver car did not stop at the scene and continued to drive in the direction of South Ferriby. The Amy Johnson Festival, marking 75 years since the death of Hull's flying ace, has come to an end. To round off the celebrations, a life-size statue of the aviatrix was unveiled on Friday by another one of Hull's most famous daughters, the actress Maureen Lipman.
People think you're brave going on stage. I don't know how. A slip of a woman gets in a plane and goes up. I don't even like going to Mallorca, frankly, in a plane. It was quite a glamorous thing to be an air hostess in my day, but we later found out that it wasn't glamorous at all, was it? Preparing 67 plastic meals in a toilet was not, but we thought it was, the air industry. And she was right. She went in a little trip in a plane and she said, "This is the future, and I want to be a part of it." And not only that, she became an engineer. She was the first woman engineer, aeronautical engineer, and that was kind of like being an underwater rabbi or something. It's just completely unheard of. So it's such an interesting life. You just think it's like she was put on this earth just to do this, change society in this large way, and then she's just taken away.
I've always admired Amy Johnson from a very early age. I went to the Amy Johnson Museum in Bridlington and from an early age and was inspired by such a wonderful character. I think her aviation feats were incredible, but for me, the inspiring the next generation, she defied convention by choosing her own career, and that was engineering. And we're still trying to encourage more women into engineering and these male-dominated industries.
British Cycling has given the go-ahead for Hull's first purpose-built closed road circuit, the only such facility in East Yorkshire. A successful funding bid from Hull City Council and Hull Culture and Leisure Limited means the 1 kilometre closed road circuit at land next to Ennerdale can now proceed, improving access to cycling at all levels. The circuit will be available to the public, providing a safe, traffic-free environment for cyclists to learn, train and compete. Councillor Terry Geraghty welcomed the decision by saying it's fantastic news for the city and that the cycling community will be thrilled. The nearest cycling facility similar to this is in York. On tonight's Hot Topic, I'll be speaking to Cleethorpes MP Martin Vickers. Here's a preview of this week's edition.
What the country wanted was control over borders, the financial policy, fishing rights, justice and so on. And the British people have never really been fully signed up to the European project. And the project, as it's developed and become more and more distant from voters and from the control of their elected politicians, what they wanted back was control. And they were prepared to pay a price for it.
And you can watch that on Estuary TV at 8 p.m. this evening. Don't worry, it's not all about Brexit. North East Lincolnshire Council will be carrying out further consultation on the pre-submission draft local plan, following a decision by Cabinet members last week. Members approved plans to undertake further consultation with people living and working in the borough. This latest round of consultation, which started today and runs until the 28th of October, will give those who've already made representations the chance to review and amend their previous comments in the light of updated evidence. The plan will be submitted to the Secretary of State in December. It'll set out the framework for future development and growth in a sustainable way. And I won't be talking about the Hull Fair, but I'm sure I'll be mentioning it later in the week, because today marks the launch of the Humber LEP, that's the Local Enterprise Partnerships Skills Pledge. This was first launched in 2013. It aims to provide employers with a one-stop shop when it comes to supporting their current and future workforce. And since its inception, a total of 373 organisations from across the Humber have supported the campaign, which won national acclaim at last year's Adult Learners Week Awards. And telling me more about all this, I'm joined by Jen Vincent and Anne Newlove from the Humber Local Enterprise Partnership, the LEP. Both of you, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, what is this skills pledge business? How can people pledge a skill, Anne?
It's very, very easy. The skills pledge is something that we use as a bit of a tool to say that employers, businesses in general in the Humber region don't complain about the lack of skills or issues that they've got in their sectors with regards getting new recruits through. They actually get involved, do something about it. So we've got 6 pledges that they can sign up to. We ask them to sign up to 1, 2, or 6 if they want.
Okay.
These include things like offering work experience opportunities or supporting the skills of staff that already work for them, helping businesses to diversify.
Well, I'll just mention those 6 areas, what they are. They're developing the skills of the existing workforce, monitoring an entrepreneur.
Mentoring.
Mentoring an entrepreneur, well, no doubt both.
Well, yes.
Offering a work placement, offering a traineeship or apprenticeship, employing a graduate, or supporting the development of employability skills. So that covers an awful lot of ground, Jenny, doesn't it? I mean, that's pretty much everything that you could expect to do for your workforce.
It does, and most of the employers from the Humber area will be already doing one of them, whether that's upskilling their own workforce or going in and talking to children in a school, having an apprentice in the workforce. It's usually already being done, but signing the skills pledge, you're showing your corporate and social responsibilities to other businesses in the Humber that you're actually doing that you're coming across and helping to upskill the area.
But part of the aspect of this is that it's cooperative, isn't it? That if you're helping somebody in one part of the workforce, that might then be pushing on to benefit a business in another place.
Absolutely, yeah, and we see that all the time. It's not just about employers taking the time out and spending time in schools and things like that. It's also a great tool for younger members of the team to go out and have a go at presenting and talking about their sector. And we have seen real examples of how that develops young people and the people within the existing workforce.
And the people who are developing the young people, presumably that's something that they benefit from as well. There's a bit of a risk, though, that you might be training somebody to a level of supreme ability and talent, and then they go off and work for somebody else.
Yeah, no, I think if we can upskill the whole of the Humber, then we're keeping good people in the Humber. It's about upskilling the workforce in the whole area and making sure young people are coming through and older people as well, 40 plus. They may need retraining.
40 plus is not older.
No, I am in that age group as well, Hugh.
Can I just ask about this? picked me up quite rightly, mentoring an entrepreneur. Now, an entrepreneur by definition is self-employed, so you're looking after somebody, presumably not a competitor in your own business, but giving them tips in how to run their own business.
That's right, yeah, and we don't do this all ourselves. We must give credit to the networks that we work with. When we speak to a business, we often find that they themselves didn't get much support when they started, or they maybe struggled to find the support. They now want to give that support to people setting up their own business, indeed to young people still coming through education, and there are networks that we can link them in to do that.
If businesses want to make this pledge, how can they do it, Jim?
They can contact us on the Humber Local Enterprise Partnership website, or they can ring through to the LEP, and we can go out, have a meeting with them, talk to them about what they want to do, what they're already doing, and where they can do more. If they want to do more, it might be that they're doing everything. They're just not shining about it in the Humber, and we can get that shine through and promote those good news stories.
Brilliant. That sounds like a splendid scheme. Thank you both very much for coming in, and good
Thank
luck
you.
with the pledges.
Thank you.
Join me after the break when Dan's away. I'll be bringing you all the latest sports news. It's something to look forward to, isn't it? And I'll be talking to Karen Griffiths about how you can sponsor a room for a hospice charity. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, a roundup of all the latest sporting action, and I'll be talking to Karen Griffiths about how you can sponsor a room for a hospice charity. The £6 million Cartergate office development in Grimsby is moving on apace, with the new facade of the building recently revealed on the removal of the scaffolding. The project is being delivered by North East Lincolnshire Council, working in partnership with NG to regenerate an area of the town centre which has been empty for several years. The new 4-storey office building will be occupied by Wilkin Chapman Solicitors, which plans to generate more jobs for the area. Progress on regeneration work in Hull's Preston Road area will be offered to public scrutiny on Thursday afternoon with an update on progress. The latest news about demolition, new homes and improvements for those in the refurbishment areas will be on show. There'll also be information about the new homes being built on Portobello Street, Maybury Road and Southcoats Lane, as well as the planned NHS Hull Integrated Care Centre. Councillor Martin Mancy said the redevelopment of the area is demonstrating that sustainable regeneration is achievable, and there's a new mood of pride and optimism in the neighbourhood, he said. The public scrutiny will be held at the Freedom Centre between 2 and 7 p.m. Sunday's Beverley Food Festival was a massive success, with thousands of people attending the event, showing off the best local food and drink. There were demonstrations by local chefs, and entertainment came from Britain's Got Talent contestants, the Garnett sisters. One of this year's main attractions was a live cook-off to find Hull and East Yorkshire's Apprentice Chef of the Year. The Copper Saucepan competition saw finalists Victoria Martin and Connor Burney battling it out. Connor won. Food lovers don't have long to wait until the town's next big event, the Christmas Festival of Food and Drink, on the 26th of November. Today marks the start of Hospice Care Week, an annual week of activity to raise the profile of hospice care across the UK. Lindsay Lodge Hospice is launching a Sponsor a Patient Room campaign as part of the week, enabling patients to have a more comfortable, homely stay at the hospice in Scunthorpe. And I'm joined now by Karen Griffiths to tell me how people can get involved and make a difference. Karen, thank you very much for coming in.
Quite okay.
You're the Chief Executive of the,
That's right.
of the Lindsay Lodge Hospice. Just remind us, where is that hospice?
Lindsay Lodge is in Scunthorpe, and it serves the people of North Lincolnshire.
And you have not a vast number of beds.
We've got eight patient bedrooms. We've also provide daycare, and we provide therapy services for our patients. So a very broad range of services that are offered to local patients and their families and carers. And this week's about joining forces with other hospices up and down the country to celebrate the work that hospices undertake. And a lot of that work is funded by the hospice themselves, who are a charity, and as you know, fundraising is really hard work these days.
Well, it's always tight, but it's not a great time to be doing it at the moment, is it? Now, the sponsor a room business, the rooms you have presumably are perfectly comfortable and adequate, but they're just they're getting a little tatty.
They're around 15 years since we're last sort of refreshed. So given that the fundraising is difficult, what we're trying to do is make an extra appeal for local businesses and the public to help us generate some income to really get behind the sponsor the patient room, and no matter how small or the donation may be, it will be very welcomed, and we hope to refurbish the patient rooms in the spring following the winter campaign.
So you don't have to sponsor a whole room, as it were, as large or a little a
contribution? Each room costs around £2,000, and we're talking about the furniture and soft furnishings as well. So I say no matter how small the donation will be, it will be gratefully received, and it'll be acknowledged within the patient's bedroom that support is
advertising in a hospice bedroom.
Support of being gratefully received.
Acknowledgement, okay, well that sounds fair enough. Now, your hospice is pretty much completely run, not completely, but almost entirely run by volunteers.
Lots of volunteers that we, really grateful for their time for. Approximately 400 volunteers and around 100 paid staff. So lots of roles for volunteers, both in the hospice and in some of our shops that also are part of our organisation. So great work of volunteers who we respect, immensely.
And it's Hospice Week throughout the country. What other sorts of events are going on? Is there anything?
We've got lots of events throughout the week. What we've tried to do this year is focus on trying to allow people to actually call into the hospice. So we've got drop-in sessions for healthcare teams and members of the public at different intervals throughout the week, in an attempt to allow them to come and see what the work of the hospice is really like. I think there's still quite a lot of myths associated with hospice work, and it's not just end-of-life work, it's about supporting people with a quality of life with those with life-limiting conditions. So lots of great individualised work with patients and families, and people can drop in and see that.
Tremendously satisfying, presumably, for those volunteers.
Of course.
Very quickly, how can people contribute if they want to?
They can contact us at Lindsay Lodge, and we've got a website. They can pick up the phone, and we'll willingly talk to them about their role and how they can help.
Brilliant. Karen, good luck with that. Thank you so much for coming in.
Many thanks.
Now it's my turn to read you the sports news. Hull Kingston Rovers chairman Neil Hudgell says he'll spend the next few weeks assessing the playing squad and off-field matters following their relegation from Super League. The Robins lost 19-18 on Golden Point to Salford on Saturday, meaning they'll be playing in the second tier of Rugby League for the first time in 10 years next season. Director of Rugby Jamie Peacock revealed yesterday that he offered his resignation, but that it was rejected, and he'll stay on to try to earn an immediate return. He said he'll look to set about a full root and branch overhaul of the club. On to football now, and Hull City lost 2-0 to Chelsea at the weekend. The two halves of the game were in stark contrast as City matched the London club in the first period before mistakes led to the 2 goals in the second, as caretaker boss Mike Phelan explains.
We sort of took Chelsea to certain limits. I thought we created a few chances, but it's like anything at this level, when you get the chances against teams of this quality, you need to take them to be in the game. We obviously felt at half-time that we'd performed very, very well, and we needed to continue that. We also knew that Chelsea probably would change their approach and their attitude to the game, which they did. But I felt disappointed, and the players understand my disappointment simply because we were the victim of our own demise, really. I thought we gave the ball away very cheaply. We didn't treat the ball with the care and attention it deserved. We gave it away, and you get punished, and that certainly happened.
Elsewhere, Scunthorpe United won their top-of-the-table clash with Bury. Scott Wiseman and Josh Morris netted the goals to move United 3 points clear of the chasing pack to the top of League One. Bury has slipped down to third, 4 points behind the Iron. Grimsby Town weren't so fortunate. They lost 3-0 at home to Hartlepool United. Former Mariner Padraig Armand scored 2 of the visitors' goals, with Nathan Thomas scoring the other. Town have now dropped down to 9th in League Two. Meanwhile, one other line of Mariners news is that top scorer Omar Bogle is set to miss tomorrow night's Checkatrade Trophy clash with Leicester City through illness. Elsewhere, North Ferriby United lost 1-0 to Macclesfield Town, and they've also today been drawn to play the Silkmen in the FA Cup final qualifying round. On to rugby union, and Hull Ionians lost 30-32 to Blackheath in National League One, while Hull Rugby Union Football Club lost 45-10 to Huddersfield. Scunthorpe fared better, beating the Preston Grasshoppers, while in Yorkshire, 1 Hallensians defeated Keighley 23-16. Ollie Emmanuel opened up the home side's try count after he capitalised on a Keighley handling error. Andy Krebs then went over to score the second Hallensians try of the game and round off the win. That's it for tonight. If you have a news story for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 3155553, or you can write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN 345BQ. Until tomorrow, from all of us here, good evening.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby. With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.
Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines tonight, a violent teenager in Hull is sentenced to life for murder, a glimpse of Hull's new University Technical College, and a new effort to support victims of rape and sexual violence. And later in the programme, I'll be talking to Ryan Adamson and Adam Clarkson, who'll soon be live at the warehouse raising money for the air ambulance. And before that, Michael Wadikor and Nikki Silver tell me about Lincolnshire's everyday heroes. And now some news. A violent teenager has been sentenced to 18 years for the murder of a Hull man. Augustin Sula, 18, stabbed 21-year-old Mateusz Schlepper 7 times in West Parade, Springbank, on the 14th of February. His brother Ermal Sula, 24, was jailed for 4 years for assisting an offender. He had encouraged Augustin to lie to police and fled with him to Birmingham after killing the father of one. The court heard how Sula carried out an act of violent revenge after a friend of Schlepper's brushed past him outside a betting shop minutes earlier. A judge said it may never be safe to release him. Police are appealing for witnesses after a man suffered head injuries during an assault in Cleethorpes High Street. The incident happened around 11:30 p.m. on Friday in the smoking area of a bar when the 36-year-old victim was involved in a shouting match with the offender, who then assaulted him. The victim was treated at Diana, Princess of Wales Hospital and later discharged. A man has been charged following a collision in Hull over the weekend. The incident happened on Redmire Close in Hull on Sunday when a car was reversed into a 65-year-old woman, resulting in serious injuries. 32-year-old Abdul Abbasi of Thorndale in Hull is charged with 1 count of attempted murder. He appeared at Hull Magistrates Court today. The Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner Keith Hunter has awarded a new 3-year contract to support victims of rape and sexual violence. The Blue Door will provide support for both male and female victims and adults and children through a network of independent sexual violence advisors across the Humberside Police Force area.
This is a new service that's going to be available across the force for both adults and children of sexual violence. Our colleagues in the Blue Door, our partners within the Blue Door, will be embedded within our specialist teams across the force who deal with these type of sexual offences. They will be there to help the victims of these type of offences through the criminal justice process and support them and act as that link between the investigator and the victim. Obviously, we are a victim-focused organisation and we'll work closely with our colleagues in the Blue Door and other organisations who give victims of crime support to ensure that our victims are supported, safeguarded and their wishes are adhered to.
From the point that a serious sex offence is reported, as soon as the officer starts to investigate that, they can offer the support of the independent sexual violence advisors. We'll make contact with the victim within 24 hours. We'll do a needs assessment. We can support them while they have their forensic medical examinations, when they give their initial evidence to the police, and then throughout the criminal justice process. So we'll liaise with the police officers that are conducting investigations, conduct needs assessments with the victims to make sure that they're feeling safe, that they're secure and that all their needs are met. And then ongoing, we can support them through trial and then as they start to rebuild their lives.
What I would say is I'd like to urge anyone who's been the victim of a sexual offence to report that to the police. The allegations will be taken seriously and we will investigate those and we will obviously work in conjunction with our colleagues in Blue Door and other support agencies to ensure they're supported throughout this process.
Hull's new University Technical College has been on show. Senior figures, including the Member of Parliament for Hull West and Hessel, Alan Johnson, visited the site to review the progress of the project. Alan Johnson starts by telling us there's already been high demand.
They're oversubscribed already and they haven't advertised yet. So, no, that'll happen. It's a difficult kind of mix because you transfer here when you're 14. So it's kids who are at school elsewhere who will come here when they're 14. Work from 9:15 in the morning till 5:15 at night, a normal working day. And it's very much about getting kids 14 to 19 years old, getting used to the world of work straight away.
I think it's really important that the young people understand what's available to them out there, not just to carry on with great careers in Hull, but also to look beyond Hull, beyond the UK. So we're looking at producing people who can work in mechatronics, engineering, digital technology industries on a global scale. So yeah, it's really, really good. And in terms of getting them to actually see that they can get the knowledge, skills, qualifications and experiences they need to actually beat other people to these jobs, I think that's fantastic.
We are on programme. As I say, we're at week 14. We're exactly where we should be in week 14. So presently we are on course for opening next September. At the moment we are installing the steel frame on a rolling programme around the footprint of the building, and following on that we will be installing the upper floors, which have already commenced on what we're calling the North Block.
A local charity set up 18 months ago to fundraise for potentially life-saving equipment has achieved its target. State-of-the-art equipment valued at £80,000 will be installed at Castle Hill Hospital in Cottingham for the Clarity Appeal to improve local breast screening services. The tomosynthesis diagnostic tool uses X-ray imaging to create a 3D image of breast tissue. Clinicians get a more detailed and accurate view of any suspicious areas, helping to reduce the number of biopsies taken from healthy patients in order to rule out a malignant diagnosis. One of the oldest and largest travelling fairs in Europe returns this week. Hull Fair, complete with white-knuckle rides, side stalls and, one hopes, healthy, tasty treats. It starts this Friday in Walton Street and runs until Saturday the 15th of October. It's going from 2 p.m. until 11 p.m. and it offers something old and something new for lovers of the modern and the traditional. A new feature this year will be an illuminated walkway through West Park. Guiding people into the fairground, volunteers will be on hand to encourage visitors to use it. The fair has more than 300 attractions. A number of roads will be closed from the 5th of October. Lives is an organisation that provides immediate medical care to 999 calls across Lincolnshire. It's asking Lincoln residents to join it from tomorrow in celebration of the everyday heroes who save people across the county. The week will include events and activities for all ages, and to tell you more about it, I'm joined by Michael Wadikor and Nikki Silver. Both welcome, thank you very much for coming in. What is Lives?
Lives is a charity and we cover all of the Greater Lincolnshire area. We've been around for 47 years now, and we're the people that when you phone 999 as well as an ambulance being dispatched, you quite likely see a Lives volunteer turn up to offer immediate life-saving support.
And Michael, you've been a volunteer for how long?
For just over 2 years.
And when we do call 999 in Lincolnshire, I imagine that there are Lives people turning up more quickly and perhaps to more calls than the ambulances can get to.
Very much so. I mean, we live within the community itself, so if there is a 999 call that needs an ambulance, we may be only 2 or 3 minutes away, whereas obviously an ambulance is having to travel significantly further distance.
This is a service necessary in such a rural county as Lincolnshire, where ambulances can't get to everywhere very quickly, I guess.
Absolutely. With the best will in the world, we are a very large rural county. Our road network isn't always the easiest to travel around, and that's really what Lives developed, I guess, in response to that need to get there really quickly. Sometimes, you know, we say minutes matter, getting there quickly, performing life-saving treatments while an ambulance is on its way.
And these people are all volunteers?
Absolutely. We've got more than 700 volunteers across the Greater Lincolnshire area. They might be people such as Michael, who are lay people who perhaps didn't have any medical knowledge or experience, but we've brought them into the organisation and trained them. And then we've also got a group of healthcare professionals, so doctors, nurses, paramedics and ambulance technicians that again we train to have additional skills. So outside of their day job, where they're delivering healthcare, they'll also respond to emergency calls.
Well, Michael, tell me about that. As a layperson, what sort of training did you get? What sort of medical knowledge have you gained?
Well, we start off with very basic training, just basic first aid. We learn how to do CPR, learn how to use a defibrillator, but then progressively, as we have been with Lives do more calls, we will get additional training right the way up to attending road traffic collisions. So we basically attend almost anything that an ambulance can be called to.
If people want to be trained and join Lives, subscribe to it, or if they just want to contribute money because it depends on money charitably gathered, what do they do, Nikki?
Well, the best place would be to have a look at our website, which is www.lives.org.uk. There's lots of information there about how people can get involved. Everything from making a donation to fundraising for us or indeed becoming a responder.
Now, this week, you've got a series of events going on to publicise these unsung heroes. I hope we're singing about the heroes a little bit more here and now, but you've produced some films.
We have. We're calling it Everyday Heroes Week this week because one of the things that we've realised is that people, although they might have heard of Lives, they don't really know what it is that we do. So this week we've got 5 of our responders that are sharing their stories about why they got involved in Lives and why they care about it so much.
Well, I hope we'll be able to put up some of those films on our various social media operations and show them here, Nikki. Would you say it's a worthwhile thing to do, Michael? Do you find it satisfying saving these people?
Very rewarding. It's the only word I could use to describe it.
And you reckon, Nikki, 20,000 people this year?
We'll see more than 20,000 patients this year.
And you reckon how many lives have you saved, if you can count that?
Well, every year we can point to about 250 people across Lincolnshire and say they're here because of the work that Lives have done.
Well, I hope more people know about you now than they did, and I hope you have a very successful week. Thank you both very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Join me after the break when Luke will be bringing us a roundup of all the news from the sports world, and Ryan Adamson and Adam Clarkson will be joining me on the sofa to tell me how they'll be live at the warehouse raising money for the air ambulance. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Luke will be bringing us a roundup of all the news from the world of sport, and Ryan Adamson and Adam Clarkson join me on the sofa to tell me how they'll be playing live at Grimsby's warehouse. More than 100 new nurses take up their posts across our region this autumn. 102 new starters, both experienced nurses and newly qualified nurses, have swollen the ranks of the nursing team at Northern Lincolnshire and Goole NHS Foundation Trust. They'll be spread across all three of the Trust's hospitals, as well as community services. These new starters mean that the Trust's inpatient wards will have reduced vacancy rates by November. At 45 full-time posts, the lowest vacancy rate for some time. Chief Nurse Tara Philby said the Trust has undertaken robust and targeted recruitment campaigns, and she's delighted to welcome these new nurses to the organisation. Further recruitment events for nurses are on the 3rd of November at Scunthorpe Hospital and the 10th of November at Grimsby Hospital. Both events will be held between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 2:30 and 4:30. A brand new website and app are being launched to offer emotional health and well-being support for children and young people across North Lincolnshire. Called Life Central, it'll be launched on the 14th of October following World Mental Health Day on the 10th. It'll provide a range of information and support, including eating well, bullying, sexual health and internet safety. The website will also provide targeted information and support for parents, carers and professionals. Life Central is a joint initiative between North Lincolnshire Council and North Lincolnshire CCG, and it's part of a wider children's mental health transformation programme. Research shows that nationally, 50% of mental health problems are established by the age of 14 and 75% by 24. More than 200 homes will have a facelift in East Hull. The work on Estcourt Street is part of Hull City Council's major regeneration programme for the Holderness Road corridor. The frontage improvements include external wall painting and new fascias and gutters. Outside the court, terrace footpaths will be renewed and new boundary walls incorporating attractive metalwork will be built. Landlords and residents living on Estcourt Street were consulted on the proposal, with 98% of residents signing up. The work on the frontages should be completed during 2017. Live at the Warehouse is a live music event coming to Grimsby in November. It'll raise money for the Links and Knots Air Ambulance, and one of the acts, Ryan Adamson and his friend Adam Clarkson, forgive me, of the band The Vibe Co. They join me now. It's the Vibe Co, not the Vibe Company, chaps, is it?
No, just the Vibe Co.
The Vibe Co, yeah. Okay. Better tell me where and when. The warehouse is where in Grimsby?
It's down Freeman Street, just about halfway down, opposite Appliance World.
And when is it, Ryan?
It's on the 12th of November, and the doors for the event open at 8 p.m.
Where can people get tickets?
So you can get tickets either through the website, which is vibeco.co.uk. On the homepage, there's a link straight through to the ticket booking site, or if you go on Facebook and type in "live at the warehouse," it should come straight up.
Brilliant. Okay, well that's how people get there. They'll be coming to see you, and we'll talk about your band in a moment or two. But how many acts are appearing that night?
So we have three acts on that night. We've got ourselves, and the event will be headlined by a local indie rock band called Resonance.
And then the first band on is a solo acoustic artist called Kid Conventional. He's coming over all the way from Sheffield and he's supported acts like Jess Glynn in the past, so he's doing really well for himself.
Okay, and then you.
Yeah, and ourselves.
Okay,
Yeah.
Let's talk about the air ambulance. It's an expensive business running an air ambulance, and this event, all the money I take it is going to the Lincolnshire and Nottingham Air Ambulance.
Yeah.
It means well, it means a lot to you.
Yeah, my mum was rescued by the air ambulance back in February and taken over to Nottingham Hospital, and she probably wouldn't have got the care that she needed without the air ambulance being there.
She's all right now?
Yeah, she's fine now. She's fully recovered.
Good for them. Excellent. Well, wish her well. It's an expensive business, though.
Very expensive, yes. It costs about £2 million per year to run, and it's £2,000 per operation, and they operate 3 times a day on average, so it's very costly, and they're not government funded, so they rely on charitable people.
Well, we were just talking to the people in the first half live who operate a sort of rescue service on the ground, but entirely by volunteers, because there can never be enough ambulances, especially for an area like Lincolnshire and Nottinghamshire, but even for a helicopter. Lincolnshire and Nottinghamshire is a vast part of central eastern England.
Oh yeah, it's about 3,500 miles of fields and towns across Lincolnshire and Nottingham, so a large area. Definitely.
It's an ambitious thing to do, but you're raising money for them. Do you have any ideas about how much you might hope to be raising?
We're hoping to raise about £800. Hopefully, ambitiously want to try and get to 1,000 if possible.
Now, your company, your band, it's a name, it's confusing me. It's got the abbreviations in it. What sort of music do you play, Ryan?
So we play popular music, chart music that people know and will dance to, from modern day stuff dating right back to the 1960s. So very well known tunes, and we do covers of those.
Yeah.
And how long's the band been together?
So we've been together for 18 months now, so since the spring of last year, and it's been going very well for us, very enjoyable.
And have you been getting good audiences?
We have indeed. We've been playing at a number of parties and functions. And
we played Otterfest as well, which was a festival over in Gainsborough. Played another festival called Scouting Rocks, which was in Humberston earlier this year. So played to quite a few different audiences.
Now there's you two. Let me just quickly tell us what instruments you play.
So I play keyboard.
And I play guitar.
But it's not just you two, there are quite a lot of you.
Yeah, there's 7 of us in total. So we got, obviously me and Ryan, got 2 singers, a drummer, saxophone and bass.
So
I think it's covered everyone.
Yep.
It's a sort of rock and roll Von Trapp family, is it?
It is.
How did you meet? How did you all come together? What's the history of the band?
So Adam and myself became friends through scouting, and so after we became friends we thought we'd host a music event one evening, and discovered that there were quite a few musically gifted individuals in the organisation, and then we came up with the idea of forming together and make a band.
Absolutely brilliant. I'm sure it makes a fantastic sound. I hope you have great success, and just remind us when and where for this air ambulance money raising.
So it's an event called Live at the Warehouse. It's out of the warehouse on Freeman Street on Saturday the 12th of November this year. Doors open at 8 o'clock, first act's on at 8:45, and you can buy tickets by going to vibeco.co.uk.
Brilliant. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for coming
Thank you
on.
very much for having us.
Time now for Luke with the sport.
Scunthorpe United manager Graham Alexander says he'll freshen up his squad for tonight's Chequer Trophy game against Shrewsbury Town this evening. The Iron Boss revealed that he wants to give game time to those players who aren't currently involved in the league squad that has taken them to the top of League One. Top scorer Josh Morris will miss the game after picking up a slight knock on Saturday, while Jordan Clark and Luke Williams are both also missing through injury. The game kicks off at at Bamford Park at 7:45 tonight. Meanwhile, Grimsby Town are expected to be without their top goal scorer for their trophy game tonight. The Mariners will take on Leicester City's under-23 side without Omar Bogle, who's missing through illness. Sean McAllister and Ashley Chambers are also set to miss out. Elsewhere at town today, manager Paul Hurst has been shortlisted for September's Manager of the Month award for League 2. Crewe's Steve Davis, Accrington's John Coleman and Plymouth's Derek Adams also join him on the list. And finally on football for now, North Derby United host Chester City tonight at the Eon Visual Media Stadium. A win could lift the Villagers out of the bottom four, but they've only picked up 3 points in their last 8 games. Congratulations are in order for Hull FC after they cleaned up at the Steve Prescott Man of Steel Awards last night. Danny Houghton picked up 2 awards, the Man of Steel itself and the trophy for being the division's top tackler. Coach Lee Radford was named Coach of the Year, while Mark Snyde won the Hot Shot Award. The club were also named Super League Team of the Year, and Kirk Yeaman won the Outstanding Achievement Award after hanging up his boots last week. And finally onto ice hockey, and it was a mixed weekend for the Hull Pirates. They lost 6-3 to the Guildford Flames on Sunday, but not before winning 3-0 against the Peterborough Phantoms on Saturday night. That's all for the sport this Tuesday evening.
That's it for tonight. Thanks very much, Luke. If you'd like to get in touch or you have a story for us, please use our Facebook or Twitter pages, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Tonight is remaining dry throughout with clear spells. Despite clear periods though, it will be slightly warmer than last night with minimum temperatures of 8 degrees. Tomorrow is looking dry and breezy with strong winds over high ground. Some patchy cloud is possible at times though, with maximum temperatures of 15 degrees.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.
Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines tonight, a man is named following a road traffic accident in Hull, a new play exploring a trawler tragedy opens also in Hull, and new road safety measures in Cleethorpes. And later in the programme, I'll be talking to singer India Button, and before that, to novelist Kerry Drury. But first, some news. A man who died following a traffic collision in Hull on Saturday has been named as 42-year-old Jamie Whitworth of Hull. He was riding a black and orange bike when he was hit by a silver Vauxhall Astra close to the junction with George Street on Freetown Way at around 6:40 a.m. He died a little later at Hull Royal Infirmary. The 29-year-old driver of the Vauxhall, also from Hull, was arrested in connection with the incident and has been released on police bail until December. Officers investigating the collision are still keen that anyone who witnessed the incident calls Humberside Police on 101. A series of road safety improvements has been introduced near the site of 2 Cleethorpes schools today. Traffic calming measures on Chichester Road have been completed, and the resurfacing of nearby Hardies Road has also been carried out. The traffic calming measures include 2 raised junctions on Chichester Road, a reduction in the length of the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit to the core area around the school, and improvements to the existing bus stops. Councillor David Watson, Cabinet Member for the Environment from North East Lincolnshire Council, says the council found that 1,500 vehicles a day were exceeding the speed limit, and 5 casualties have occurred in the last 5 years. The measures are designed to make the area around the schools safer for all road users, especially children. A new play exploring the loss of the trawler The Gaul in 1974 will open at Hull Truck Theatre tomorrow. It tells the stories of the wives and relatives left behind, and it's part of the Hull Trilogy series, which examines how the city's past has shaped its identity and its capacity for renewal. Here's the Lord Mayor, Sean Chater, on the play's significance to Hull.
Commemorating those that have done things and celebrating what people actually did do is important. This is about the people. This is not about a piece of metal that went out to sea. This is about the people that went out in those vessels and the families of those people and those that they knew and loved that stayed on shore. This is about real history and about real people. This may be a fictionalised version, but there are people out there that will recognise certain parts of the characteristics of them, and the fact that it's written by a Hull writer who's the second generation of Hull writers from the same family that are notable writers, the Platers, is absolutely key to reflecting the history properly, because it's somebody that understands it and can be sympathetic to it. And I think it's very hard for people that don't understand what the industry was about to actually write about it effectively.
I'm standing in front of the exhibition that we were asked to create by the Hull Truck to accompany the play, which is going to be running for 3 weeks here, called The Gaul. The idea was that we could use items within our collections and articles from the Hull Daily Mail to tell the story of what happened to the Gaul, so that people attending the play who don't know anything about the background can get an idea about what it's about before they actually go in to see the play.
With this play that's going to be running from, I believe, the 6th to the 29th, and I think that they are really, really doing their very, very level best to push the history of Hull in a sensitive and effective way so that people can reflect on what actually happened and the impact on people. Let's not think about what happened to the vessel, let's think about the people.
And the play starts tomorrow, curtain up at 7:30, and the run goes on until the 29th of October. And on the subject of trawlers, the team behind a project to bring an ancient trawler back to her rightful home are in South Georgia in the South Atlantic today. £1.5 million are needed to bring the Viola back to the Humber, but the whole project depends on its current condition.
I think it would be appropriate if that was on the waterfront by the marina somewhere. But it's my belief that she should never ever go back in the water. She should remain ashore, and what we should do is make sure that she's on display ashore, because salt water is quite aggressive, and so therefore what we don't want to happen is that every 4 or 5 years we've got to remove her from the shore and remove her from the water and repaint the hull again. So therefore, far better. The cradle that we're making to bring her home will be a permanent home thereafter.
Prisons across East Yorkshire will not get extra officers. £14 million will be spent on 400 extra staff in prisons across England and Wales. Prisons with the biggest increases in violence will benefit most. Her Majesty's Prison Hull and Her Majesty's Prison Humber will miss out on the funding. Calling for more officers in East Yorkshire, Rob Nicholson, chair of the Prison Officers Association, said the number of officers who left under voluntary departure some years ago is partly to blame for the problem, and that more prison officers are now needed due to a rise in assaults and drugs entering prison. 2 Hull charities are joining forces to make sure the city's homeless have access to inhalers. They want to make sure that those sleeping rough have access to medicine especially as the risk of an asthma attack increases in the winter months. Stacey Sotheby's son, Cameron, died playing football after not having access to an inhaler, and she set up Breathe for Cameron in his name, supplying inhalers to every school in Hull.
We've realised that, it's not just schools that need the provisions in place for better asthma care. If we actually want to reduce the mortality rate and also want to reduce hospital admissions, we have to target the vulnerable groups as well.
All primary and secondary schools now have inhalers on site, which is amazing. It gives the parents peace of mind when they send the children to school, even though we do still encourage them to make sure they bring their own. If they break or if they're lost, at least they've got that peace of mind knowing that the school has an emergency one if needed, and they have actually been used a few times already.
Initially we're going to offer some training out to the hostels and shelters first. That's a really important thing, that they know how to use the kits and they understand what's involved, and then once that training's been complete, we'll be able to roll those packs out to the shelters and hostels that want them, basically. Caroline deals with probably most of the hostels on a daily basis, really, don't we? So it's something we drop into conversation anyway, and we've said that we've started this scheme, and would they be interested? And they've all so far they've also said they want to do it, don't they?
Yeah, up to now they're all quite interested and curious about it.
Now, a Grimsby novelist has recently had her third novel published. Cell 7 is set in a world where sinister reality TV has replaced the justice system. In the book, a teenager called Martha is accused of murdering Jackson Page, a self-made millionaire. And the author, Kerry Drury, joins me now to tell me a little bit more. Kerry, welcome.
Thank you.
It sounds like a terrifying read and a good story.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Just put a little bit more of the bones on the plot, without spoilers about the ending, but tell me what happens.
Well, it's set in a society where the death penalty hasn't been abolished, but instead it's evolved into a system where guilt is decided by a series of internet or phone votes, and everybody in the country is able to vote on them. So the accused is taken in, has 1 week, 1 cell for each day of the week, and everybody votes until the final day when it's decided if they live or die.
So everybody who happens to be watching television for entertainment acts as a jury making a life or death decision.
Yes, yeah, everybody gets to vote in what they say is a truly democratic process, because everyone gets to vote. So everybody gets to decide whether the person is innocent or guilty.
The difference between a jury, which must watch all the evidence in a proper trial, as we know and love it in this country, is that they're watching it for entertainment rather than anything else.
Yeah, and it kind of touches on the influence of the media as well. Like, and often there are guests who come on and talk about the accused or talk more about the person who's been killed, and so it kind of leads the voter one way or another.
So this tends to, and this is quite a satirical novel in that case, it tends to suggest that a democracy of people watching, getting their information for the sake of entertainment through television, through media, rather than anything more serious on a very important decision, might behave in a slightly irresponsible manner.
I don't think they would purposefully behave in an irresponsible manner. I think it looks at a lot of corruption as well, and the way the rich control a lot of the processes, and how the poor people are often the underdog and don't really get to get their voice over.
I'm just thinking of elections on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean at the moment, where people might be, where life and death decisions might be made for reasons that aren't terribly serious.
Yeah. With
jokers like Mr. Trump. How long did it take you to write this?
I started writing it in September 2014, finished it by the Christmas 2014, so it was quite quick. And then it went off and did the rounds with my publisher, and then I had an offer from Hotkey by the summer. So
how can people get their hands on it?
It's Waterstones, Amazon. I think it's in Asda's as well. So
Asda's, excellent, and it's very good value, £7.99, which is, and it's a thick, good paperback. Beautifully designed cover.
It's a lovely cover, isn't it? I'm thrilled with it. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. Any plans for selling the film rights? It reminds me of a few films.
Thank you.
What do you any ideas who you might get playing your heroes?
Do you know, when I was writing it, there's one character called Cicero who's an ex-judge, and in my head he was always Gary Oldman playing Commissioner Gordon in Batman. That's
Brilliant.
how I saw him.
Cicero, brilliant name for any jurist.
Yeah, thank you.
Kerry, thank you very much. Good luck with the sales of the book, and I look forward to reading it. Sounds
Thank
brilliant.
you.
Thanks very much. Join me again after the break. Dan will bring us a roundup of all the latest sports, and I'll be talking to a local singer, India Button. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Dan will be bringing us a roundup of all the latest sporting action, and I'll be talking to local singer India Button. Aquarists at the Deep in Hull have finally been able to discover the sex of 2 penguin chicks who hatched back in June this year from DNA in tail feathers. They've been given celebrity-inspired names. The male penguin will be called after David Attenborough, and the second, female chick, will be named Lizzie in honour of the Queen. I hope there's no lèse-majesté there. Perhaps she's a king penguin. The celebrity Gentoo penguins are now fully grown and living happily with the adult birds. Their species is listed as near threatened on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species. Patients with learning disabilities have produced a video to help others know what to expect when going into hospital. Members of the Time for Action and the Thinkers group worked with Northern Lincolnshire and Goole NHS Trust on the project. The video charts a typical hospital journey from referral, receiving an appointment letter in the post, how to get there, and what happens when patients are in hospital. The video case study features Robert on his progress from visiting his GP to going to see the eye doctor at Scunthorpe General Hospital Outpatients Department. It's now been shared with staff as a training tool, and it'll be posted on various health and social care websites. A local singer who recently thrilled the crowds at this year's Sidfest joins me now to tell me about her love of music and performing. India Button is a vocal and piano soloist, and she was one of the finalists of this year's Lincolnshire's Got Talent competition. India, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in, and congratulations for such, well, for being so sickeningly talented, I suppose.
Thank you.
Tell me about this Sidfest and the Lincolnshire's Got Talent competition.
Well, I entered back in about May time, I think. So I went through a heat at the Beachcomber, and then the semi-final, which was at the Beachcomber as well. And then luckily I got through to the finals, which was at Sidfest in Sydney Park in Cleethorpes. So it was really, really difficult, the competition, but it was really enjoyable and something I've never done before, so it was a good experience.
How many competitors were you up against?
Well, because it was around Lincolnshire area, there was people who I didn't know, and there was, in the heat, I think there was about 12 competitors, which there was a mix of bands and soloists and duos and everything. And then in the semi-finals, I think there was 8 competitors, and then obviously in the finals there was 8 as well. So it was a big competition, and at each stage of the competition there was different people who I hadn't seen before, so that was good.
So if there were 12 of you just at your heat, and there were heats all around the county, then there must have been, well, all it does is prove that you're better than hundreds of people. How did you do in the end? You did mention it, but just tell us again, what was your final ranking?
Well, we didn't get told out of the 8 how we did individually, but I didn't get in the top 3, unfortunately, so I didn't get any prize money or anything like
Corruption.
that.
The judges were corrupt. There's no doubt of it.
Yeah.
Well done for getting that far. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So what the actual Sidfest itself? This was in front of an audience?
Yeah, it was a big audience. I think it held up to 500 people. I don't think it was full, but there was still quite a lot of people watching, so I was really nervous, but yeah.
But you're fairly used to performing in front of a big crowd?
Yeah, well, I've been dancing since I was about 2.5, 3. So I do festivals twice a year, and I do ballet, tap and modern dancing, and then I sing on stage as well sometimes. So it is quite different though, just going there behind a microphone, and then I sang one of my original songs as well, so that was different.
Well, I want to ask you about that. We should emphasise at the moment you're attending the Tolbar Sixth Form College, not school, Tolbar Sixth Form College, doing your A-levels.
Yeah.
And yet it's not just a matter of performing, singing and playing the piano, but you're also a composer and a songwriter as well.
Yeah, well I do enjoy to do that in my spare time. I've written a few songs now, but the only one I've performed in front of an audience is one called Don't Come Back, which I did at GCSE for one of my compositions. So it was, well, I'd performed it at the Grimsby Auditorium for my school concert, but it was quite daunting going on the stage, because obviously I've never performed it in front of people before, so I didn't know what the reaction would be, but it was good in the end. Yeah.
And it had a good reception. People
yes,
liked
it did. Yeah, I stood up. I was on a buzz, so it was really good.
Okay, but I wanted to ask, these talented people like you said you've been dancing from the age of 2. The idea of 2-year-olds dancing strikes me as vaguely comic, I have to say. But you've been playing the piano for a very long time as well.
Yes, since I was about 4 and a half. I've done some graded exams, and I'm still doing some now, working on them. But now I'm older, I can pick up songs that I didn't get to do when I was younger, because I couldn't just pick them up. So I can do pop songs and I can sing over the top of them. So it is good to be able to have that.
So you can do all the little fiddly black keys as well.
I can.
Right, clever old you, very good.
Thank you.
What sort of, tell me about the competition again, the Grimsby's Got Talent. What songs were you performing there? Lincolnshire's Got Talent, not Grimsby, sorry.
I've performed a variety of songs. So I've performed one of my original songs in the Heat, because I wanted to show them
that was your own composition, your own writing?
Yes, because I wanted to show them that I could do other things rather than just covering songs. And I sang an Elvis song, If I Can Dream. So I like that one because my granddad passed away a couple of years ago, so that reminded me of him, and he really loved Elvis. So I like singing songs that are influenced by people who I know as well.
Yeah, sure,
so
but you can't beat Elvis anyway.
No, you can't. No,
very
my dad will
very
agree.
quickly, the last few seconds. Future in music?
Oh, I hope so. It'd be a dream.
India, I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Thank you
Thank
very much
you.
for coming in, and
Thank you for having me.
congratulations. Now, here's Dan with all the latest sports news.
Hull City caretaker manager Mike Phelan could finally get appointed as the club's full-time boss this week, according to reports. National media are suggesting that the near 3-month saga could soon come to an end, with Phelan becoming the new Tigers manager. He's been in the temporary position since Steve Bruce left in July, midway through pre-season. Elsewhere, Scunthorpe United have made it through to the knockout phase of the EFL Trophy after winning 2-0 against Shrewsbury last night. Johnny Margett scored his first goal for the Iron in the clash at Glanford Park. The other was an own goal. They've progressed with a game to spare, which is against fellow qualifiers at Cambridge United. Meanwhile, Iron midfielder Josh Morris has been named on the shortlist for September's League One Player of the Month. Grimsby Town's Paul Hurst says he's disappointed after their exit from the same competition. The Mariners lost 1-0 to Leicester City's under-21 side, leaving them pointless in the competition. Goalkeeper James McEwen was sent off in just the 16th minute, leaving centre-half Sean Pearson to play the remainder of the game in goal, and Hurst says the decision spoiled the game. And finally on football for now, North Ferriby United made it 8 games in 9 where they failed to score after a 1-0 defeat to Chester last night. Here's boss Steve Howsham.
Spoke to the lads in there. I feel like we've been robbed as well as that, robbed definitely of a point. But the whole game, I thought we deserved to win out of that. That's where it's come from. And you can see how much we're trying. You can see how much the lads are giving it all just to get that ball in the net. We've had one disallowed, we've hit the bar, the keeper's pulled off some saves again.
Defender Ben Middleton was sent off in the game, something that Howsham sees as being pivotal to the end result, and was unhappy with the referee's performance overall.
I'll probably get in trouble for it, but he's even come off and said I didn't realise I'd booked him in the first half, so I just don't get it. But then we get done by a sucker punch, just one ball over the top, and that's Achilles heel for us as well. But, the massive one is putting that ball between them white posts, and that's what we're struggling with.
On to rugby now, and Hull FC coach Lee Radford has praised his players after he won the Coach of the Year award at Monday's Man of Steel presentation. Radford, who's just completed his 3rd season in charge of FC, was named as the best coach in the competition for this season, having steered the Black and Whites towards Challenge Cup success and a 3rd placed finish. He was one of a number of accolades for the club after Danny Houghton, Mark Sneed and the team as a whole also collected silverware. And finally for now, 3 Hull Pirates players are celebrating after playing for Great Britain's under-20s yesterday. Jordan Stokes, Lee Bonner and Nathan Craze were all part of the squad that won 3-1 over Hoba Bratislava in Slovakia. And that's all for the sport.
Thanks very much, Dan. That's it for tonight. If you have a news story, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages, all on our fantastic new contacts graphics here. Email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31553, or you can put pen to paper and write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN34 5BQ. That's all we have for today. Until tomorrow, when I hope you'll join us again. Good evening.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.
Hello there and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. This evening is going to remain dry overnight with some clear spells, although tending to turn cloudier by dawn. It will also feel rather chilly, especially inland, however coastal areas could stay a little milder, with onshore breeze persisting. Minimum temperatures of 7 degrees. Tomorrow the trend of cloudier skies will continue through Thursday, although there will be some brighter or sunny spells at times. It will also remain breezy, leading to a chilly feel and maximum temperatures of 14 degrees.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.
Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines this evening, the death of Rod Temperton, who's died of cancer at the age of 66, Cleethorpes-born songwriter for Michael Jackson, amongst others. A strike at Hull College, something fishy going on in Grimsby, and later in the programme I'll be talking to Phil Lamb and Jamie Barwell about Blokes United. Before that, I hope a barrel of laughs with Maisie Goldsborough and Maisie, and I beg your pardon, and Amber Lilly. First of all, some news. A giant of pop songwriting has died of cancer at the age of 66. Rod Temperton, who was born in Cleethorpes, died in London last week following a brief and aggressive battle with the disease. Temperton is credited as one of the most important songwriters and composers in contemporary pop, having written Michael Jackson's Thriller and Rock With You. His other notable credits include Boogie Nights, Give Me the Night and Always and Forever. His career began in the disco group Heatwave. He went on to write songs for Anita Baker, Aretha Franklin and Quincy Jones. Temperton was also nominated for the Best Original Song Oscar for Miss Sally's Blues in 1986, a track he co-wrote for the film The Colour Purple. Michael Jackson's Thriller album continues to sell more than 100,000 copies a year. Staff at Hull College will walk out next Thursday in an increasingly bitter row over redundancies at the college. The one-day strike has been announced in response to proposals which could see up to 142 staff lose their jobs. Following the strike, members of the University and College Union, the UCU, will refuse to work beyond their normal hours or during their breaks. 86% of members backed strike action. The redundancy plans affect 60 lecturers as well as staff working in other services such as the library and learning support. The college also intends to close all 3 of its nurseries. The college has stated that it hopes to create around 70 new posts through a subsidiary company, HC UK Resourcing, to mitigate the impact of the redundancies. Union regional official Julie Kelly said, "Strike action is always a last resort, but after several years of redundancies, staff have said enough is enough." Detectives have released a CCTV image of a man they'd like to speak to following a burglary in Grimsby. The incident happened on Wheelsby Street between 11 p.m. on Sunday the 11th of September and 7 a.m. the next morning. The burglar entered the property and took a set of keys and a wallet. Once he left the property, he used the keys to steal a grey Renault Clio. Detectives investigating the incident would like to identify and speak to a man pictured in the CCTV. Officers are also appealing for witnesses after the assault of a 25-year-old Grimsby man. The incident happened shortly before midnight on the 1st of October when the victim was walking along Albert Street and suffered lacerations and bruising to his head in the attack. Anyone with information is asked to call Humberside Police on 101. Key delegates from across the seafood world came together today to sample dishes from a new recipe book. Launched on the eve of Seafish Week, one of the most important dates in the seafood calendar, the book is designed to show how great fish is and how easily it can be incorporated into everyone's diet with minimal effort.
There's such a wonderful array of different species and wonderful choices. You can do so many things with seafood. We're all aware of the health benefits in terms of being low fat. It's got all the right ingredients and proteins, etc. And when you look at the other proteins on offer, such as chicken, beef, pork and lamb, it is a limited range. But with seafood, the versatility and the simplicity, it makes it a no-brainer.
East Riding Council is to carry out a campaign in the Willoughby area to encourage more residents to put food waste in their brown wheelie bins for recycling. The council is carrying out a series of trials to help spread the message and urge residents to use their brown bins, not their green bins, for food waste. The campaign will start from the 17th of October with waste and recycling teams placing tags on the green household waste bins of around 5,000 properties in the area. A similar trial in Bridlington earlier this year resulted in an average decrease of around 1 kilogram each week of waste per household in the green bin. If similar results were seen across the whole of the East Riding, a further 4,000 tonnes of waste could be recycled each year. Villagers in Cottingham are to have their say on the future of derelict buildings on Platform 2 at Cottingham Railway Station. The buildings have been out of action for a number of years, but a campaign group wants the villagers' help on how they'd like to see them used for future generations. Luke Adams went along.
I'm at the Cottingham Railway Station this morning where there are plans to turn the outbuilding on Platform 2 into a thriving community hub. Now, the building has been derelict for a number of years, but the Yorkshire Coast Community Rail Partnership are calling on the villagers of Cottingham on their ideas on what the building can be turned into. Jill Simpson is the Community Rail Officer for the Yorkshire Coast Community Rail Partnership and explains what needs to be done.
The building's been empty for quite a long time and it's suffering from damp and just a bit of general neglect. So what we want to do is to bring it back into use, but for community purpose. So what we're doing at the moment is we're speaking to the community via social media, via surveys on the trains, etc., to find out what people really want to see here, because what we don't want to do is to convert a building and then for it not to be used.
Ros Jump is a councillor that represents Cottingham and is excited by the prospect of bringing the derelict buildings back to life. She says the plan needs a step-by-step approach.
I think it's a sensible approach just to do part of the railway station buildings and see how that goes, get that firmly established and then do the other half. Because I think if they tried to do it all in one go, it will be too big a project. The station's been sort of derelict like this for years, and as it's a listed building, it would be such a shame if we lost buildings like this. So I think it's a brilliant scheme, and hopefully we're getting some good ideas through that we can actually make a goer of and get the people coming down to the railway station, not just to catch a train, but to do whatever is available down here and put it back as part of the community. One or two people have mentioned to me, oh, we hear something's going on down at the station, and they've seen the internet sites, Facebook, etc., and they're interested as well. I think it's curiosity at this stage as to what can be done, because people have said for years, oh, something needs to be done, but now it's actually looking like something's going to happen at long last.
And what are some of the suggestions that have come forward so far?
We've had quite a lot of response. It's been really positive. Most people would like to see a cafe or some kind of tea room with newspapers, etc. So little mini news agents in there. Other people have said, would it be useful for child play? So kids could come down and do activities, or families could maybe rent it for a very, very small fee, just to sustain the building. Maybe have kids' parties in there, that sort of thing.
Now, the Riverhead producers are back with another comedy evening. It'll feature an array of comedians, including Lee Kyle, Matt Hoss and Tom Lucy. And to tell me more about it, I'm joined now by Amber Lillies and Maisie Gouldsborough. I have got your names right, have I?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that at the beginning there. I was a little bit confused, clearly. When is this performance going to be happening and where?
So this is going to be on the 21st of October this year at 7:30 p.m. at Louth Playgoers Riverhead Theatre.
And how many people will be appearing?
So we have 4, right? Yeah, we have 4. We had 3 until today, and then somebody surprised us and was like, ooh. So yeah, mixing it up a little bit.
So who are they? They're comedians? What, this is going to be a stand-up show, Maisie, is it?
It is going to be a stand-up show, yeah. So we have our 2 stand-up comedians for the night, which are Lee Kyle and Matt Hoss, and then we have our MC for the night, Tom Lucy, and one of our acts just today let us know that he's bringing along a friend, so there are in fact going to be 4 acts in total on the night.
So nice and flexible and spontaneous there.
Absolutely, yeah.
These are up-and-coming comedians.
Yes, you may have seen them on things like Russell Howard's Good News. We sort our comedians when they're just sort of appearing on TV. They're doing lots of gigs. People may have seen them, but they don't know their names. And yeah, we do well with them.
Okay, so a few recognisable faces, sorry.
Yeah, in the up and running to the event, we've been out and about around the country, up and down. So we've been scouting out acts at Edinburgh Fringe this year.
Oh, so many people. Edinburgh Fringe, you can find an awful lot of talent up there, can't you?
Absolutely.
But you can also find an awful lot of whatever the opposite is of talent as
well. Exactly
well.
that, but I think we've done well in choosing our lineup for this event. And
I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Tell me about Riverhead Producers. How long have you been going?
So we started in, I want to say, 2013, in spring 2013, which was the same year that I joined. We started as a youth group, but people who want to put on serious events, serious music events, comedy, theatre, whatever. And we are supported by Lincolnshire One Venues and Paul Hamlin Foundation.
And effectively, you're just sort of doing this out of the goodness of your hearts to bring talent to our lovely towns in Lincolnshire. You're not making money out of it.
No, we're not ourselves.
You're paying the talent, but you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart.
We're volunteers, but we pay everybody that performs for us.
Now, just remind us, Riverhead Theatre in Louth, the Louth Playgoers Theatre, what date?
21st of October.
Anniversary of the Battle of Trafalgar, as I'm sure you knew. People can get in touch with the Riverhead Theatre box office to get tickets.
You can buy tickets online, £9, £12 on the door.
It'll be a fantastic evening. Thank you both very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Join me after the break. Dan will bring us a roundup of all the latest sports news, and I'll be talking to Phil Lamb and Jamie Barwell about Blokes United in Hull. Welcome back. You're watching SG News. Still to come tonight, Dan brings us a roundup of the latest sports action, and I'll be talking to Phil Lamb and Jamie Barwell about Blokes United in Hull. Coastnell is through to the next stage in the process towards securing nearly £4 million from the Coastal Communities Fund in Cleethorpes. The programme is intended to cover a range of projects to enhance areas of the town, provide new facilities and deliver key events to the resort. More than £3 million are earmarked to be spent introducing public art at key arrival sites, the promenades and in the historic town centre streets. This work will build on the £4.8 million Townscape Heritage Programme, due to start in 2017. Julia Thompson, chair of Coastnell, said if the funding is successful, it'll help develop new projects, create jobs and make it an even greater place to work, stay and play. Cleethorpes is a major draw for North East Lincolnshire, attracting visitors from all over the region. East Riding Council has started work on the second phase of its offshore seabed mapping project. The work began in 2011 with the completion of the first detailed near-shore survey to be carried out along the East Riding coastline. The results now provide a complete record of the shoreline region. This new follow-up work will resurvey key sites of interest such as the sandbanks off Bridlington and Spurn Point, as well as smaller sand waves and the mudflats just offshore to determine how these seabed features change over time. Results of the survey will be an important addition to the Council's management plan. Young people in North Lincolnshire can now work towards their Explore Arts Award, following funding and support from CAPE UK. It's a nationally recognised qualification from Trinity College London for young people aged 5 to 25. Youngsters can take part in art activities, create their own work to demonstrate their skills and creativity, find out about arts organisations and exhibit their own work. The Explore Arts Award costs £12 and a registration form can be collected from the 2021 Visual Arts Centre in Scunthorpe. Councillor Carl Sherwood said the Arts Award helps to develop young people's creativity, communication and leadership skills. Blokes United is a new group set up to help men in Hull and the East Riding improve their mental health by playing football. And two of the men behind the project, Phil Lamb and Jamie Barwell, join me now. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blokes United, how long has it been going?
Approximately 10 months. It started off with the chat group in Hornsea for about 2 months, and then with Chris Johnson, who is outside, by the way. He approached
no room
us.
on the sofa, I'm afraid.
Well, there's no room for him on here. His ego. So he got in touch with us, and we started the football side of it. So we get men playing football, and it's a release for them really to come and play football. Be the camaraderie, gets them out of the house, gives them something to look forward to, and as we all know, fitness and everything else and getting out there and being active is one of the things that combats depression and anxiety.
Well, Jamie, I was going to say, we know that as Phil says, physical exertion is, for some strange reason, very good for the brain, very good for the mind.
Yeah, you sort of get them natural releases, natural chemicals in the brain, serotonin and dopamine that naturally occur through exercise. So it's a good alternative, and you know we've got guys who've probably been in periods where they've become reclusive. And that natural draw that brings people together, it's our national sport, and I think that's one of the draws. It brings people in, gets them out of the house, and like we say, give them that natural release of natural chemicals, really.
You talk about release of natural chemicals. Sure, there's an element to it where you're just so knackered that you're too tired to worry about anything.
Well, I think that's one of those sides of depression where you can become sort of fatigued, and you know, speaking from experience, you can find yourself sort of without energy. You know, spend a long time sort of in bed, and that thing of being able to get out, and you know, it's
the more energy you expend, the more energy you have. Absolutely,
yeah, and I think it's part of it. You know, there'll be people who come to sessions who've been to the GP, thankfully, and been given medication which helps support them, and that might be the impetus they need to get off the out of bed or off the settee, but then we give them a natural exercise as well.
And Phil, it is a national sport. It's also a sort of great football is a great bonding thing for blokes, for British blokes when they get together talk about football. There's a shared experience, a sociable and communal thing here as well.
Well, there is. I mean, we've seen of late, sadly, a few footballers and a few rugby league players who sadly have taken their lives, some very famous, well-known household names who have taken their lives. And what it is that they come out of that bloke's arena, so to speak, you know, with the banter and the laugh and the joke, and, you know, if things go wrong on the football pitch, the ribbing, and they're taken out of that, and then they've got nothing. And so then they become a bit of a recluse, where everything then starts to, in effect, life starts to drown them, you know. So where do they go from there? And so Blokes United, the chat and the football gives them something to look forward to. Initially we started in Hornsey, we started a new one in Hull last week, so there's now a chat group where lads can come every week now, where before it was, you know, every other week.
And how widespread a problem is it? Is mental health something that affects more people than perhaps we would guess, and more men especially perhaps than we'd guess, Jamie?
I think the national stats would say that, you know, rough estimates are 1 in 4. I think that's probably underestimated personally. I think that's probably people that have come out and said, you know, I'm suffering with depression, anxiety or some form of mental health or mental illness. So I think it's probably bigger. Suicide now is probably the biggest killer of young men, unfortunately, around the world. So I think it is certainly something that needs to be addressed, and we're just trying to play our part locally, really.
And of course, women also have mental health problems, and no less a problem. This tends to address male mental health problems, especially because they're rising. It's difficult to be a bloke sometimes.
It is, and I think with myself being a vicar, I see a lot of groups within the church that are women orientated. You know, the Mothers Union, Women's Institute, and the like. And there's nothing really for men to get together and sit down and chat over stuff what's going off at home. And for a lot of men, they've got to be the hunter-gatherer of the family. They've got to be the strong one. So when things start to buckle with their personalities or the life redundancy, whatever, they've got to still carry on being strong. And then things start to snap in their lives, and that's when things come to the fray, sadly, as Jamie said, with men taking their lives.
If people want to come either and help, or if they want to come and be helped, and they want to come and feel that this will be helpful to them, how can they get in touch? What should they do?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we run a session every other Saturday at Goals in Hull, which is the football session. We have set up our website, which is www.blokesunited.com. FC, is it?
Yeah, yeah. You can also just hashtag on Twitter, Blokes United, all one word. So you'll find us via those links.
Gentlemen, thank you very much, and I hope the work continues and thrives.
Thank you
very much.
Talking of sport, here's Dan with all the news from the sports desk.
Grimsby Town are preparing for the long trip down to Exeter City on Saturday, boosted by the likely return of top scorer Omar Bogle. The forward has been out through illness, but is in line for a return after training today. The Mariners take on the Grecians as they look to recover from back-to-back defeats in the last 7 days. Here's Paul Hurst on their opponents.
The travelling is one thing. You know, they didn't have a midweek game like ourselves, and I know I changed things around, but there's still some lads that have had more minutes in the legs, and certainly Exeter, it's a bit of a advantage. The journey itself, as you say, is a bit of a monster one, so that's never ideal, and a surprise to me that, you know, while we'll be one of the ones that travel a bit further, a lot of people have a longish journey to Exeter, so I'm surprised that their home form hasn't been better.
North Ferriby United's on-loan striker Kyle Wotton is a credit to his parent club Scunthorpe United. That's according to the Villagers boss Steve Howsham, who was speaking to us following their 1-0 defeat to Chester FC on Tuesday evening.
You could get players that come and just, you know, stroll about. Kyle's a credit to himself and Scunthorpe United, and credit to have him on board because, like I say, he works his socks off no matter what, and that's what you want from definitely loan players, and, you know, he's brought a lot to the side.
Elsewhere, Scunthorpe United manager Graham Alexander says he's got no fresh injury concerns going into the weekend's game. They host Northampton Town, with Connor Townsend pushing for a recall after injury. And finally on to rugby, and Hull Kingston Rovers have confirmed today that hooker Sean Lunt will remain at the club next season as they look for an instant return to Super League. He has 3 years left on his contract at the Lightstream Stadium, but won't be joined by James Green next year. He signed a 2-year deal with promoted club Lee Centurions. And that's all for the sport.
That's it for tonight, I'm afraid. If you've a news story for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages. Details are on the screen. Some are up and down the screen here. Email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31 553. Until tomorrow, good evening.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.
Good evening and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Tonight, some evening sunny spells will be followed by a dry overnight period. There will be some clear spells, although cloud will tend to increase from the west by dawn. It will also stay rather breezy, minimum temperatures of 11 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, a generally cloudy but dry start. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle will then spread east by the afternoon, mainly across the Pennines, turning windy through the evening, and a maximum temperature of 19 degrees.
With university courses on your doorstep, there's lots of reasons to study at the University Centre Grimsby. Sponsored by the University Centre Grimsby.